Candidates contesting for the Barbados Labour Party, the Bajan Free Party, and the Solutions Barbados held a debate in which they addressed economic issues amid the COVID-19 emergency in the country. U.S. presidential candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump held competing rallies in the crucial swing state of Florida to go until the elections. Russian President Vladimir Putin stressed that the involved in the talks to end fighting in Nagorno-Karabakh. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, I'm Gladys Quesada. Candidates contesting for the Barbados Labour Party, the Bajan Free Party, and the Solutions Barbados held a debate in which they addressed economic issues amid the COVID-19 emergency in the country.
Certainly, government has had a real challenge during this COVID period with the unemployment benefit. I'm just grateful that Barbados has such a solid system of social security in place that it could withstand the demand that had been placed in it in very unprecedented terms. But one of the things that we have to do is something that certainly in my capacity as a trade unionist I've been observing and commenting on for some time, and that is the need for us to ensure that workers are paying into the social security system. Indeed, if we had a situation where more people who are working were paying into the national insurance system, the kind of pressure and strain that the national insurance was placed under could have been eased significantly. We have, for instance, the situation with a lot of contract work where there are people who are doing jobs that are in formal employment, but who are made to, they're contracted in circumstances where they're not allowed to pay into the social security system, therefore placing a greater pressure on the system ultimately when situations like these occur. So going forward, we would need to make sure that as we create jobs in such a way that the decent work is observed, that not only rights are observed, but people are able to pay into social security, and there has to be a method of policing the current system, and that's through the Labour Department, to ensure that everybody who is employed in Barbados is paying into the system, and so will be bolstering that system of social security.
In Venezuela this Thursday, President Nicolás Maduro Moros denounced the government of Colombian President Iván Duque for being allegedly involved in terrorist plots that seek to destabilize the Venezuelan oil industry.
Just now, we saw the press conference by Minister Tarek El Aissami denouncing the terrorist attack with drones and missiles on the Amoy refinery. What has happened is very serious. It is an attack that we have been denouncing by terrorist groups that are preparing from Colombia, Iván Duque, to attack our fundamental industries, refineries, oil industries, to attack the electricity industry, to attack Venezuela.
In Chile, protesters have rallied to demand the release of young political prisoners detained in the widespread social unrest of October 2019. Demonstrators stressed that it was inconceivable that the young protesters remain under custody a year later, having not been charged in any formal legal proceedings, especially following the recent constitutional referendum, which made clear the overwhelming support of the population for their demands. Several lawmakers have called for the political prisoners to be pardoned and released. However, government spokesperson Jaime Belolio stressed that the executive is firmly against issuing a pardon, claiming that pardoning them will simply serve as a justification for violence. Bolivia's newly elected movement towards socialism has unanimously selected the two figures who will preside over the two chambers of the plurinational Legislative Assembly. Senator Andrónico Rodríguez was chosen to serve as president of the Senate, and lawmaker Freddy Manani will preside over the Chamber of Deputies. The MAS also designated the board that will accompany them in the 2020 to 2021 parliamentary period. Andrónico Rodríguez is aged just 31, and he is the vice president of the 6 union federations of the coca growers of the Chapare and the 3rd senator for the tropics of Cochabamba. Meanwhile, Freddy Mamani is the executive secretary of the National Federation of Rural Teachers of Bolivia and was part of the former national coordinator for change. The meeting to select the two leaders was presided over by President-elect Luis Arce and his Vice President David Choquehuanca, in addition to the entire leadership of the Pact of the Unity National Alliance. The pilgrimage for the life and peace is advancing in the northwestern region of Colombia, with hundreds of people walking towards the capital, Bogotá, to condemn the systematic assassinations of social leaders and signatories to the 2016 peace accords. The mobilization, organized by the Common Alternative Revolutionary Force Party, includes former guerrilla fighters as well as other signatories to the peace agreements from the country's northwestern region. The massive caravan is mobilizing in support of peace and respect for life, as the country experiences an ongoing escalation of violence, and calling on the government of President Iván Duque to put a stop to violence and to work to fulfill the peace accords. The FARC party has repeatedly announced that since the beginning of the peace agreement in Havana in April 2016, over 1,000 leaders have been killed and 236 demobilized guerrilla combatants assassinated. The activities of the pilgrimage include vigils, caravan mobilizations within different municipalities, and cultural exchange with the participation of artists from the region. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. U.S. presidential candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump held competing rallies in the crucial swing state of Florida this Thursday, just 5 days to go until the elections. The battle for Florida and the ongoing coronavirus pandemic were at the forefront of the presidential race activities this Thursday in the swing state that has seen a significant increase in cases since it reopened business a month ago, sparking fears of a second wave. The stakes in Florida are at the highest for Trump, who will have virtually no path to 270 electoral votes without winning the state, where he defeated Hillary Clinton by 1.2 percentage points in 2016. Trump held an early afternoon rally in Tampa, part of a crucial swing region of Florida. Meanwhile, at the same time, Biden was in South Florida's Broward County, which is home to a very large Democrat electorate and where he hopes to secure a large advantage on election night. Biden also visited Tampa later this Thursday as the two candidates raced to secure the votes needed ahead of Tuesday's election. Also in the United States, the White House Coronavirus Task Force is warning of the persistent and broad spread of COVID-19, while its members have called for aggressive mitigation measures. The director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, stressed that the U.S. is going in the wrong direction. The task force noticed that the cooler weather is a major factor in the increase of infections, as friends and families move gatherings indoors. It urged states to intensify efforts to encourage mask wearing, social distancing, and avoiding crowds in public spaces. Meanwhile, the dean of the Brown University School of Public Health has stressed that the United States is not ready for a second wave, noting that 8 months into the U.S. outbreaks, things are not where they should be. He also warned the US to look to Europe, where infections began rising again about a month ago. In places such as France, and due to the slow response from the authorities, they were now having to take more drastic measures. The Spanish Parliament on Thursday approved the extension of the state of emergency declared to fight a surge in coronavirus infections for 6 months. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez's coalition government on Sunday declared an initial 15-day state of emergency, while the extension approved by lawmakers means it will now run until May 9, 2021. Under the state of emergency, Spain's 17 regional governments, which are in charge of health policy, can impose measures to restrict people's mobility, such as nighttime curfews and closing their borders. The extension was approved with 194 votes in favor, 53 against, and 99 abstentions. This is the second time that Spain has declared a national state of emergency since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. But the first was put in place in mid-March and lasted until the end of June. Spain last week became the first European Union nation to surpass 1 million confirmed COVID-19 infections, with the virus claiming more than 35,000 lives.
Yes, 67 plus 127 votes casted in a telematic way. No, 53 votes casted in a telematic way. Abstentions, 25 plus 74 votes casted in a telematic way. The extension of the state of emergency is thereby approved, and it will be published in the official state bulletin.
And Sweden's Public Health Agency held a press conference this Thursday as the country reported record numbers of more than 3,000 new COVID-19 cases for 2 days in a row.
Healthcare capacity is still very good in Stockholm, but it's getting strained, and we don't want to end up in the same situation we were in this spring. That's why we've been in dialogue with the Public Health Agency about introducing local general advice.
Sweden has had a fairly comfortable summer and a slow spread during the spring, and now in the last 2 or 3 weeks the spread has taken off. There's huge differences in different regions, but some of the major regions have now seen rapidly increasing spread the last 1 or 2 weeks.
Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated on Thursday that there are no plans to introduce a nationwide lockdown in Russia, as the country set a new record for daily coronavirus infections.
We clearly understand how to act, and therefore we are not planning to introduce sweeping restrictive measures to launch a so-called nationwide lockdown under which the economy and commercial activities are practically at a standstill. Despite a difficult epidemiological situation, we are much better prepared to work in the conditions posed by this epidemic. The vaccines from the Vector Laboratory and the Gamaleya Institute are working effectively. Now we have to establish a mass production. The Sputnik V vaccine from the Gamaleya Institute has already been delivered to all regions. I hope we can start mass vaccination at the end of the year.
And staying in Russia, none of the volunteers participating in trials of the Sputnik V vaccine candidate have contracted COVID-19 or show any serious negative side effects to date. According to a report by the Gamaleya Research Institute of Epidemiology and Microbiology, all volunteers developed immunity to COVID-19. Since the beginning of the first clinical trials of the vaccine in June, more than 40,000 people, including from high-risk groups, have been vaccinated with the candidate. Some of the volunteers presented mild reactions during the first hours after the vaccine was administered. Among the mild side effects were a slight increase in temperature and headaches, which all gradually disappeared. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. The South. Russian President Vladimir Putin stressed that Turkey should be among the countries involved in talks to end fighting in Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan and Armenia again accused each other on Thursday of shelling civilians in and around mountain enclave. With more peace talks scheduled in Geneva this week, the European Union said an escalation in the month-old conflict was unacceptable and called for a lasting settlement after the collapse of 3 ceasefires. The fighting has been the worst in the South Caucasus since about 30,000 people were killed in a 1991-94 war over Nagorno-Karabakh, which is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but is populated and controlled by ethnic Armenians. And COVID-19 cases are accelerating in some parts of Africa, and governments should step up preparations for a second wave, the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention said on Thursday. Over the past 4 weeks, cases have increased by 45% per week on average in Kenya, by 19% in Democratic Republic of Congo, and by 8% in Egypt. There have been more than 41,000 deaths among the 1.74 million people reported infected with the virus. Beginning in August, many governments eased restrictions. However, the trend of decreasing cases has flattened. A migrant shipwreck of Senegal has left at least 140 people dead, making it the deadliest so far this year, according to the International Organization for Migration that confirmed this data on Thursday.
And, you know, we get a lot of tragic stories, and I just wanted to flag one that really caught our eye, sadly, this morning, from the International Organization for Migration, which says it is deeply saddened by the drowning of at least 140 people off the coast of Senegal. This is the deadliest shipwreck recorded in 2020. Local community members told IOM that the vessel carrying around 200 migrants left Mbour, a coastal town in western Senegal, last Saturday and was trying to reach the Canary Islands. The boat caught fire a few hours after departure and capsized near Saint-Louis on the northwest coast of Senegal. 59 people were rescued. The body of 20 others were found, while 120 are presumed dead. The government of Senegal and IOM have arranged a mission to travel to Saint Louis to assess the needs of survivors and provide immediate psychosocial assistance.
Muslims in France are facing growing fears as President Emmanuel Macron and his divisive policies ignite deep-rooted anti-Muslim sentiment in the country, with reports of stabbings and violent attacks. On October the 20th, 2 Muslim women became the latest victims of growing anti-Islam sentiment in France after being stabbed repeatedly under the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Their attackers were 2 white women who called their dirty Arabs. The incident followed President Macron's deeply divisive policies targeting the Muslim community through the extended clampdown on mosques and Muslim organizations. French officials have vowed to crack down on what the hardline Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin has called the enemy within. President Macron, who began a campaign earlier this month against Islamic separatism from France's deeply held secular values, said recently that Muslims need to develop an Islam of enlightenment, which many considered patronizing, while claiming that the region was in crisis all over the world. Protests have been held in several countries denouncing the French anti-Muslim stance, and social media users in many Muslim countries have joined calls to boycott French goods. And the ongoing tensions in France were further fueled this Thursday, following the reports of attacks in the southern city of Nice and the southeastern city of Avignon. In Nice, a man wielding a knife outside a church killed 3 people and injured several others. He was detained shortly afterwards by security forces. French President Emmanuel Macron described the incident as an Islamic terrorist attack and announced a major military build-up to protect the country. Meanwhile, French police killed a knife-wielding man on the streets of the Montfavet district in Avignon on Thursday after he reportedly attempted to attack officers and threatened passersby with a knife and possibly a handgun. No one else has reportedly injured in the incident. And in Jerusalem's Old City, Muslims also gathered to pray at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and celebrate the anniversary of the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. Children were entertained by clowns, and sweet treats were enjoyed during the festivities at the compound, the third holy site in Islam. This year's celebrations coincide with the political tensions between some Muslim-majority nations and France over the publication of display of cartoons of the Prophet, considered an insult to Muslims, as in Islam any depiction of the Prophet is prohibited. French President Emmanuel Macron has vowed to continue supporting such caricatures, claiming they are protected under freedom of expression.
We will not allow the Prophet to be mocked, humiliated or insulted by Macron or by any other leader in Europe. He will be judged and punished. All of their countries and their goods will be boycotted. Of course, we won't abandon the Prophet, and we won't abandon Al-Aqsa.
And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, you can join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.